So we're going to talk Candace Owens, Kanye West, all of them good people. It's good people on both sides, guys. No, but I mean, it's clear. Some where am I struggling to stream from? We back? I mean, we never got there, but are we back? Hopefully. Okay. We're here. I think we're good. Okay. Oh, why does it have to have the Ukrainian colours? The little restream button up in the top. It got out of me. Flow. Oh yeah. So I've seen on YouTube, Twitch if people weren't banned, but I've just seen some white sort of lefty-ish, but sort of centrist content creators coming out about Kanye West, about Candace Owens, and they're not getting it, and their audiences are saying it as well. I'm thinking of particularly Andrew Schultz, who have I got connection? Okay, can't tell the connection there. I'm using a thing to stream on 2 different platforms, and I can't see the stats that you normally see on Streamlabs, so it's hard to tell if I'm actually, Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So we're seeing that content creators on these issues are way out of touch with their audiences. I'm thinking in particular of Andrew Schultz and Destiny a little bit. Andrew Schultz mainly. He really didn't know his audience, or just doesn't give a shit because he's too rich now. I don't know. But he came out with a roast of Kanye West for one of his episodes on Flagrant. He's since made a public announcement about how that was received by his audience, because you can see from all the comments, like, everyone's like, no, bro, you got this wrong. And funny enough, there's a little clip from the start of a Patreon behind a paywall episode where Andrew is the backlash from the audience, and he just doubles down. He's just like, I knew this was going to be the reaction, but people are stupid. Is basically his reaction. Okay, so here's the thing. A few years ago, and trust me, I dealt with this. A few years ago, if you said there's a lot of Jewish people in charge of a lot of powerful, places. They're in a lot of powerful places in a lot of industry. Everyone would go, that is anti-Semitic to say. How dare you? And now the narrative's changed a bit. And it's, yeah, they are in power, but there's no nepotism. There's no nothing going on. They just happen to be there. They just happen to be there. I don't know. It's a very strange topic. I find it very difficult to talk about, obviously. But you have to admit the reality of what you're talking about. It's a little strange that there's a very particular narrative around this particular issue. Now, with the Kanye West stuff, I've seen it from Andrew Schultz and I've seen it from Destiny, and I've seen it from a few other content creators and all of that. They have very much gone with the narrative of Kanye West is crazy and he's just parroting whatever Candace Owens says, as if that's a complete dismissal of everything he's saying. Oh, okay. Oh, well, if he's just copying what Candace Owens is saying, then fuck him. He's a genius in every other regard. He's got really good points. He makes some really, difficult to deal with points for everything else apart from this, according to a lot of content creators. This one, it's oh no, he's just crazy. The whole thing with Kanye is he says stuff that is pretty much true, just not in a very palatable way. That's like his whole thing. Like the choosing slavery for black people, that kind of stuff. George Bush doesn't care about black people. All of that is somewhat true. He just says it in a really bombastic way without much explanation, and that's why he gets views, and that's why people end up having more reasonable discussions about things. He brings it to the extreme, and then we have a reasonable discussion about the reality of what he's talking about. That's normally what happens, right? When Kanye West says something about something, whatever it may be. Trump, make America great again. All of it. He goes to the extreme, and then we have a sort of, not as a public, we have like a normal conversation, because he's brought it so far extreme. We can like sit here and have a decent conversation about it. Not on this topic, apparently. And this is, if if you believe that there are people in power who are having an influence, an undue influence over culture and who can speak and who can't, and who can be famous and who can't, maybe don't be doing this. But I've seen the same narrative coming from a number of different creators now as well, which is all Kanye West is crazy. And he's just copying Candace Owens. And I think that's very unfair. He's always had these views. Always. Let's be real. Like, this isn't new. He's got a song called Black Skinhead. Like, bro. He's friends with, he came up with Jay-Z. Jay-Z is very vocal about the fact that he wants to copy exactly what the Jewish people did. in America to take over lots of industries and have power. But he says it in a more palatable way, and so people go, oh, well, that's okay then. So it's crazy that people are having this response. But I can see like Destiny's trying to get into sort of the Black content creator space and have some dialogue there, much more. And he's said some things that are pretty cringe and that I think won't be received very well by the audience, particularly this whole thing of, oh, let's dismiss everything Candace Owens has to say, and let's, by implication, dismiss everything Kanye West has to say because he's just parroting what Candace Owens says. Candace Owens makes some pretty good arguments about a lot of different things. I almost never agree with the narrative that she has around it and the conclusions that she draws from the things that she's talking about. Me and her, not politically aligned at all, very much opposites politically, but she covers some news stories that other people don't cover, and she has some insights into something pretty interesting. There's this thing again of, I think, white people going, they're Black, but they're not saying the things Black people should say, and I don't like it. And I think that's what's kind of coming out at the moment. Yeah, it's a bit cringe, bro. It's a bit cringe. So yeah, I think this dismissal of everything is a bit insane. So Schultz came out, did his thing, very badly received by his audience, because the whole thing was him just going, they don't control everything. And I'm sure they've done it in a way where they can go, well, clearly we were being ironic. It didn't come across like that, though. Because they did this whole thing where they, tried to get the Jewish person to say, oh, no one's in control of anything and blah, blah, blah. And this is something I don't like about this ironic everything. Maybe what they were trying to do is do a funny little thing of like, we're going to toe the party line, ha ha ha, even though really we all know maybe that's what they were trying to do. It didn't come across like that though, at all. It just came across as, we're just going to say exactly what we think should be said. Because Holocaust, so pain. And it's like, okay, well, a lot of gypsies, a lot of disabled people, Black people, everyone got killed in the Holocaust. We don't just blanket not talk about anything because of it. I don't know. It's like It just cannot be denied that there's a lot of Jewish people in a lot of powerful places. It cannot be denied, and yet they're still trying to deny it. A lot of people. We all know that nepotism happens. We know, or we should know, that according to religion, Jewish people see themselves as the chosen people, as above everyone else, the only ones set to go to heaven. That's a pretty strange narrative, bro. There's some weird shit in American TV. Like, can I just say Gilmore Girls, an example of I think Jews are overrepresented, and Jewish culture is overrepresented in American media and American culture. I do, especially now that I know that there are only like 3% of people in America. They're just overrepresented in TV, and that probably is just because, you know, that's the jobs that they got into and whatever. The explanation that Dove on Schultz's thing gave, that probably is the reason. They just happened to get into Hollywood because it was like an undesirable like job and whatever for everyone else, and so they were allowed to do that. And someone else pointed out, you know, the reason that Jewish people in America are in control of banks is because usury was not for Christian or Muslim people, and this is since like the 600s, all across Europe, medieval Europe. It was the exact same thing. Jewish people were the only ones who were allowed to loan money and do all of that kind of stuff because it was seen as immoral for anyone else to do it. So that's how they ended up getting into these different industries. So you can see how it happened, sure. But to keep going, it's anti-Semitic to even acknowledge that there are people in these positions of power and of like cultural relevance is crazy, because it has led to an overrepresentation of Jewish people in American TV and stuff like that, compared to the population that they take up in the country. There's a lot of talk about Hanukkah and like, you know, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of Jewish families in who are like the central family in American TV. There is that just is the case, and you can see how it got there. The writers are Jewish, the talent pickers are Jewish, the whatever. Fine, it all happened naturally. Fine, you say that, but you can't deny that that is the case. It's not helping anything when content creators come out and say, well, that's all bullshit, that's all ridiculous, that's all crazy. Because it just is the case. Yeah, it's a very strange situation. Now, what I find funny as well is that there's this like idea that Jewish people aren't white in America that keeps being relayed amongst these narratives as well. Israelis consider themselves white. Yeah. They do. So despite being the exact same skin color as like Arabs that they hate, they consider themselves white. So what is being white now? What are we saying being white is then? Like, Jewish people can be a minority and still be white. Yeah. I don't know what this American... It's becoming very strange, this American narrative of like what being white is, what being black is. It's really, really bizarre. Jewish people are white and also a minority. Crazy. That just is what it is. What else would you call them? Like, if you had to pick a race for them, Jewish doesn't really fit, does it? With every other descriptive narrative of what a race is. So that's odd that that's a thing as well. I also saw Destiny come out and say a few cringe things on stream with some black creators yesterday. And it was in along with these discussions about these kinds of things. I'll address that in a little bit, actually. So I just thought, since everyone's like shitting on Kanye and Candace Owens, I watch Candace Owens stuff regularly because I want to know what she's saying. She's very persuasive, so it's good to know what the fuck she's saying. So I just thought we'll watch this and yeah, see what she's talking about. Okay. So here we... Can you see me? No. I'm so confused. Why won't it? What are you seeing? Are you seeing just the tab? Or... Won't let me change screen. No one gonna let me know, no? Thank you. Cool. Great. Okay, well, this is difficult to use. I don't understand why it won't let me use a different bloody screen. Hey, there we go. Oh, hello. Oh no. Drag to move. Won't let me move it anywhere else. All right, well, here we go. This is what we're doing.
Okay. Is the official definition of sadism. It is a noun and it means the deriving of pleasure or the
this bit's boring.
That they claimed
was. Full disclosure, I've already watched this video. I feel like it is important to say that. I've already watched this video. I already know what my thoughts are on it. This is not like a live reaction.
Sexist. It wasn't enough that all of the celebrities,
blah, 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 blah.
Children are living in cages at the border. How could Trump's administration do this? You remember the famous picture of AOC at the wall wearing all white. Everyone she was with was wearing all white.
After decades of ignoring the issue, Americans are finally paying attention. Well, most of us. Ivanka.
Oh, yeah. So this is her talking about how it's really unfair that people are trying to target Ivanka to get to Trump. Yeah, the interesting bit is coming up now. So let's.
Trump, who works at the White House, chose to post the second most oblivious tweet we've seen this week. No, Ivanka, that's a beautiful photo of you and your child, but let me just say, one mother to another, do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless. He listens to you. Put on something tight and low cut and tell your father to stop it. Tell him it was an Obama thing and see how it goes, okay?
So there's a lot going on there. First and foremost, if you're listening to this, not seeing it, Ivanka simply posted a photo of her and her young son, and she wrote, "My love," right? My heart.
Sure, but she did it as a distraction, same as the Kardashians do. You know, like the Kardashians with Astroworld, when there was all this stuff about Travis Scott and his apology and the fact that two of the Kardashians had been at Astroworld and seemingly didn't see anything of what was happening, where like 11 people died. What they do is sanitize everything by just like distracting you with other stuff. So that is very likely what happened here with Ivanka Trump. She saw that there was a lot of Trump backlash about what was happening at the borders and blah, 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 blah. And she decided to redirect the attention to something else. It's a thing that's done. It's not a completely innocent photo. She's the daughter of the president, who is, you know, all about how you are portrayed by the media. This isn't I just happened to do this day. Like, no, everyone in this arena does everything with an intention,
if you will.
You know?
And they were enraged by this. So first and foremost, we're telling her that it is not acceptable for her to post her children on the internet. How dare she do that when they've picked up another?
Insensitive to do it on the day that you're talking about loads of kids being locked up. That's fair to say.
Trump is harming children at the border, even though, of course, these were Obama policies that Trump inherited.
True.
And by the way, nobody talks about that state at all.
People do. The extreme left don't. But everyone stopped talking about the borders altogether as soon as Biden and the Democrats said, oh, yeah, we're going to continue that policy, actually. Suddenly it wasn't politically advantageous to talk about it anymore. And this is what happens in politics on both sides. This is what everyone does. We know that.
Now that we have this incredible influx to the border today, nobody cares anymore because, once again, they have a Democrat in office and they're in lockstep pretending that the border issue isn't happening. But in this moment, it really mattered.
Yeah, but the Republicans now going, God, this is so barbaric and awful anymore, are they? Either. So no one's talking about it on either side. So
how could Ivanka possibly do that? Then Samantha Bee, as you just heard, leans into that narrative that there's some incest going on in that family. I guess that's a narrative that they care about in office, even though there was not a single shred of proof that that was true today.
Trump literally said that he would fuck his own daughter. Literally said that. He's done some weird shit. Like that picture that was shown just a minute ago with her sitting on his lap and all of that, odd. He's got some weird shit going on there. It's odd. The way he talks about his daughter is disgusting. It's really strange.
Biden is in office. Ashley Biden has written a diary saying that her sexualization began when her father would take inappropriate showers with her. That is a truth that I am telling you. Ashley Biden wrote that in her diary. She was trying to trace why she has so many issues, why she became a sex addict. And she goes back to this moment where her father took inappropriate showers with her.
And this is why I continue to watch Candace Owens. I had never heard about that before. Ever. Yeah. And seemingly the only place where I am going to hear about it is Candace Owens. Now, my personal conclusion from thinking about how Trump has said some really weird and inappropriate things about his daughter, Joe, has some really odd, really creepy stuff that he does with kids, with the like smelling their hair and like pulling them closer even though they clearly don't want to be close to him. All these kinds of things, right? And now this, I mean, all of it. I link that to the fact that we found out that there's a paedophile ring in the upper echelons of society that just got hidden and dismissed as COVID came around, and that we just don't talk about anymore. And though there was people in power, people who have had positions of immense power all across a number of industries, I see these stories and I go, okay, so we've got some really fucking dodgy people who seem to be able to get into the highest like offices. And maybe part of the reason that they're accepted in is because they've all got this dirt on each other. And that's how they keep everyone in line. And that's maybe why Trump was able to be president. You know? That's what I see when I see all of these stories together. Candace Owens just seems to make it about everyone being against Trump and how Biden's awful. But it's like, well, no, let's look at the fact that a lot of past presidents seem to have been involved in some weird, like, pedophilic shit. That's strange. That's the story here. Not, everyone wants to look at Trump, but look at what Biden did. Like, no.
You're like, wow, it's interesting that I'm hearing this from you, Candace. I don't see this anywhere. I don't think Samantha Bee certainly been covered. I think her show has since been canceled, probably because it's not funny. It wasn't funny to stand up there and to demand that Ivanka Trump say something about an issue that nobody cared about. Everyone in the mainstream media had something nasty to say. You know what happened? Ivanka Trump never took the bait. Despite mercilessly being assaulted for 4+ years, she never took the bait. I remember actually saying that to her once. I said, I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you remain so calm. People are so vicious and so disgusting to you. She told me it just wasn't in her nature. I think also on a level she understood that what was happening wasn't about condemning Trump, right? There was plenty of people that were issuing condemnations about Trump. What they were really manifesting was a form of political sadism. They wanted to watch someone that Trump loved hate him, right? They wanted to fulfill a fetish.
No, people just love drama. Don't be moralizing it this much. Calm down, love. People just like drama. Is that bad? Yes. Is it sadism? No. And when the Republicans do it, she doesn't call it sadism. It's just people looking for a dramatic story and blah, blah, blah. Or just pointing out the truth. Like, stop. It's not sadism. It's just people being pretty low IQ and just enjoying drama. Me included, by the way. We all do it. And why? Because our lives are fucking miserable. So we need a distraction. So we look for people who are so out of our life that they become just a caricature of themselves. And so it seems okay to hate them. And it seems okay to like enjoy their misery and all of this. This is what we always do. This is what we've done since the start of TV, I'd say, and probably earlier than that. We all do it. Because our lives are fucking miserable. So we look for drama outside of it. And we get caught up in all of that because it means that we get to briefly get distracted from the fact that we absolutely hate our lives. So, you know.
They wanted to watch Ivanka hurt her father. This is an isolation fetish. They wanted Trump to feel alone. They wanted to basically signal to him, everyone hates you, including your daughter, who you love more than anything. We have the power to make that happen, right? Because that's what it's about. Sadism is about power, making somebody else feel small.
This is such a stretch.
But she never, ever, ever, Ivanka never
Such a
let
fucking
them scratch that itch. I
Sadism.
presume because she's not a masochist. I'm also bringing up this topic.
You realize why she uses this terminology in these narratives, because she wants to make out that the left is degenerate, because her audience is conservative Christian. Woman just fucks when the husband wants to because it's her duty as a wife. Like, this is what she is trying to appeal to. So she starts to make out that everything that the left does is based on their degeneracy and their what's the word? Their desire for hedonism and shit like this. This is the narrative she's creating. It's fucking mental. But it's very effective. And she does it by talking about things that other people don't talk about. So then she can go, see, I'm the only one talking about this. And the reason they're not talking about it is because they're demonic degenerates that God hates, and we're the good people. It's really destructive, but people don't argue against it because it's a religious argument. It's a fucking ridiculous argument, though. Just, yeah.
Because it's been happening to me recently. It's been happening to me regarding Ye, artist that's formerly known as Kanye West. Everyone in the entire...
Kanye's insistence to be called Ye is stupid. I'm just going to say it. It's stupid. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't call someone by they, them, or use people's preferred pronouns if they insisted on it. He hasn't changed his name, from what I understand. I don't think he's actually changed his name. So it's a stage name. You don't have to call someone by their stage name. Beyonce started to get known by B after a while. She didn't go around insisting that everyone, you don't respect me if you don't. Shut up. They're using your full name so everyone knows who you're talking about. Shut up. You know?
Your world has condemned him. When I say the entire world, I mean he has the kind of global celebrity that is bigger than Ivanka Trump and President Trump. since his tweets in which he said death con 3 in regards to Jewish people, he has since clarified those tweets, no one cares, but every single person it feels like, every actor, every actress, every designer, every talk show host, every model, even his former friends, every media outlet, certainly on the planet, his once upon a close friends, producers, rappers.
I'm sorry. Kanye West legally changed his name. Okay, well, we should be calling him Ye. He legally changed his name. Oh, shit. Okay, I was wrong. We should be calling him Ye. Okay. I mean, if you respect... That's quite funny. Because it's the left insisting on still calling him Kanye West. If you respect people changing their name and then, you know, talking about someone in the way that they identify themselves, then yeah, you should probably be calling them Ye. Okay, so he's called Ye then. Can we still call him Ye West, just so that we know? Well, Ye, because Ye to me means yay. So I'll call him Ye West, I guess, just so we know, because Ye is, well, maybe it is obvious who you're talking about. I'll think that one through. If it makes sense and you clearly don't need another added anything to identify him, then we should all be calling him Ye.
Person that he's worked with, everyone has said something awful about him. And if that wasn't enough, he's also been locked out of his Twitter account and his Instagram account.
Temporarily.
Zaga, that's a brand that he loves very much, is near and dear to his. He just walked their show. They just took his designs off of the website. He is essentially persona non grata on various platforms. But for some reason, that isn't enough. It's not enough hurt to assign to one person. That's not enough payment to give. No one cares. It's not enough. We need more. What do we need? We need blood. How do you get blood? You find somebody that's his friend, somebody that you know that is in his life, and you make them say something awful about him. And so it's me now. It's a peer pressure campaign to make Candace Owens say something bad about Ye, simply because I'm his friend, not because enough bad people aren't saying bad stuff about Ye. Since I'm not doing it, people are angry. Samantha Bee was angry when she was talking about Ivanka. She was mad.
It's just interesting that she sees lots of people targeting her to say something against Kanye West, and then the left is doing the opposite. Or the left, what even is the left or the right or anything anymore? But there's like the other side of this argument who are all saying, oh, it's Candace Owens' fault that Kanye West is saying all this shit. And then she's seeing it as like she's being targeted to say stuff against him because he's gone off the rails and said some shit. So it's just, yeah, it's interesting the different ways this is getting portrayed. It couldn't just be that Kanye West is having his own thoughts and not saying them very well. Couldn't be that. No.
Angry. She did things that didn't make sense. Incest. How dare you post a picture of your child? She's just culminating into her calling her a feckless C word. And so what's now happening with that? And where does that land upon in terms of me? Well, yesterday on Twitter, a woman actually wrote this to me. She wrote, "Listen and learn, Jew hater." She's talking to me. Oh, yay.
Okay, so we need to stop using Twitter comments as evidence of anything. And the media love to do it because it's mainly bots and journalists who are on fucking Twitter, creating stories out of literally nothing because it gets clicks and it gets views. But it's ridiculous. That was probably a bot. It probably wasn't a real person. Let's be real. So we need to just stop using Twitter and comments and shit, anything to do with Twitter, as evidence of the zeitgeist. Probably not the best word to use at the moment, but that is a thing. The zeitgeist, or what public opinion is, or what backlash you're really getting. No, it's not representative of anything. So if you're doing good journalism, you're not using Twitter or Twitter comments you've received or anything, or replies you've got, or tweet quotes. You're not using that as evidence of public opinion. So this is sloppy journalism, or creating a very particular narrative because it suits you. You know?
Talking about Ye's tweet, she is saying to me, she's calling me, Candace Owens, absent a shred of evidence, a Jew hater. Right? That's meant to hurt me. And why did she do this? Well, the tweet conversation started with her tweeting that George Floyd's family should sue me. They should sue me for telling the truth about his fentanyl levels. They should sue me for telling the truth that despite collecting millions and millions of dollars, it never even went to his house to gather.
The fentanyl argument is crazy. So the reason Candace Owens can say all of this stuff and make a story out of it and make it a thing is because the mainstream narrative, or the left narrative, or whatever you want to call it, just will not recognize that perhaps having fentanyl in his system may have contributed to his death. Now, this Kanye West stuff where he's like, his knee isn't even on his neck and shit. No, like, bro, you have people on top of him. If he was suffering from some kind of drug reaction or whatever, that, you know, that having a knee on your neck is not going to fucking help. The way he was left like that, everything that happened around that arrest was still wrong. And then police should have had the repercussions that they had. And people should have still been outraged. People should still find the video horrific, because it is. He's pleading for them to stop, you know, whether he's on fentanyl, whether he's not, he's pleading for them to get off of him. And they didn't. And he died. And honestly, we don't know what might have happened if he had been having those reactions, because he was saying before he was put on the ground, he was saying when he was in the back of the car that he was feeling breathless and he couldn't breathe and shit like that. If they had listened to him and responded like he was a human being, rather than just some bad criminal, they could have brought him to the hospital, got him checked out, and maybe he wouldn't have died. You know, who knows? And that's the point. They still were so inhumane, and they treated him like shit, and they definitely contributed to his death, whether it was the full reason or not. But the reason Candace Owens can start saying, I'm so persecuted, and the mainstream media are ridiculous, and all of this, the reason she can say that is because as soon as she says there was fentanyl in his system, they go, that's not why he's fucking died. And it's like, wow. You need to address the truth, the grain of truth in what she's saying. You need to address that. You can't just go, you're a fucking racist. You hate black people. You're a self-hater. You whatever, which is what they all do. You can't do that. You need to talk about, oh, okay, well, there was fentanyl in his system, but it was a compounding factor, blah, 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 blah. Give a reasonable explanation. Not just, you fucking hate black people, even though you're black. You know? Because then she can go, I'm not the right type of black person, and they just want to put black people down, and they want George Floyd to be the representative for black people because that's what they want. They want to feel like blah, 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 blah. You know? It's feeding into each other. And it keeps everyone on their little side, and it's ridiculous.
His things. And that they had never been to his house, according to the roommates, in the 4+ years they lived there. They had never met a brother or a daughter or an ex-girlfriend or a baby mama, right?
And I think this is fair to talk about. I can see this happening. We're a family who had said, hey, we don't want anything more to do with you. You're a criminal. You're bringing drugs and crime and all kinds of bad shit to our family. We don't want anything to do with you. And then when he dies, they suddenly are like, oh, it was so awful. Oh, he was such a troubled man. Oh, no. Oh. I can see that happening. 100%. So this is fine to talk about. But, you know, it doesn't really mean anything, though. The fact that his family was shit and didn't show him the support that he needed and just abandoned him, that's not evidence of shit.
Roommates called into question his relationship with the family members that were crying on TV, because what sort of a family member wouldn't go collect their loved one's belongings? They were able to collect all that money. Why not pay
Fair point.
to have his car picked up? Why not pay to have his stuff removed from his property? Why not at least go visit where he lived? And so because I had entered in that truth, she told me that I should be sued. And when I said, this is ridiculous, you can't sue somebody for defamation for telling the truth. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation if you understand how the law works in this country.
And this is the problem with how everyone is dealing with Candace Owens. She can point out the grains of truth that are in what she's saying. It's not the grains of truth that are the problem. It's the way she puts them together and creates this crazy narrative around them. That's the issue. So you need to be able to address the truth in what she's saying and explain why there's more to it or whatever, rather than just going, you're lying. She's very careful about what she says and how she says it. She's not stupid. And people keep treating her as if she can just be dismissed because everything she's saying is stupid. And that's exactly the problem. It's not. She's not. And you shouldn't just be dismissing her, because there's a lot of people who aren't and who will stop listening to anyone else because they feel like she's telling the truth.
And so she then came back and she called me a Jew.
And it reinforces that idea that a lot of people have, that is like, the media won't address it, but that must mean that there's so much truth to it, blah, blah, blah. They just dismiss it and blah, 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 blah. And then you radicalize people by not talking about the truth that is in these radical perspectives. You have to address the things that are true within it, or that, have some truth or whatever. Otherwise, you're just leaving people to get radicalized more and more. I've seen it in the comments under these videos of Candace Owens. People love her. People fucking love her. And then all of the people on the left, or whatever you want to call it, I'd say the white liberal content creators and stuff like that are just going, that's all ridiculous. And you're missing that there's a huge audience that doesn't think a lot of this is ridiculous and doesn't think that they're having the truth spoken to them. So when they hear people talking about things that they haven't heard before and then contextualizing it within this fucking crazy narrative, they'll go with the narrative. And that's what's dangerous.
Right. So essentially what she is saying is that she's angry And until I come out and condemn Ye, which is what she went on, I now have to wear me being a Jew hater. That's ridiculous. I instantly told her, first and foremost, that I'm not even going to accept that. It doesn't make me be quiet when you say words that have no meaning to me, right? I'm not going to accept that label because you're angry. And I also told her the truth, which is that when you use words like that against people that don't deserve them, you actually harm Jewish people, right? Because it makes people not take those words as seriously. When you overuse the word racist, when you overuse the word sexist,
It's a fair
it
point.
makes those words lose their value. People don't take them seriously anymore. Talking about all of this today because it made me consider another question, which is what is it that perpetuates cancel culture? And I think the answer is a fetish. It is a need that we have to watch.
See, we're back to this pro-religious, anti-non-believer narrative that she goes back to. And this is where what she's saying needs to be addressed. What she just said about this person attacking her for being a Jew hater when she's not said anything anti-Jewish or anything, that's all reasonable. And then she contextualizes it within this anti-non-believer, hedonistic, degenerate people sort of narrative that people will attach to. People will start to believe that aspect of what she's saying because it seems like everyone is denying the truth of what she said before. So they'll go, yeah, maybe the reason they're denying it and being so crazy is because they're degenerate, hedonistic, demonic non-believers. Maybe I should get back into religion more, etc., etc. People need to engage with what she's saying so that the audience doesn't just take for granted everything else that follows a point that has truth in it.
People suffer. It is an obsession with watching people hurt and feel isolated.
It's people wanting drama because they're bull. It's people taking joy in someone else's pain because they are in so much pain just from living. And because these celebrities and things like that are seen as, they're put on a pedestal, they're seen as more than just a human person. You can dehumanize that person because they're already not seen as human to most people. They're seen as this thing above them because that's how we portray them a lot of the time. That's the problem with celebrity. It's not sadism, fetish. It's not anything to do with sex. It's not it's not any of that. It's just people being really fucking miserable and wanting to see someone else miserable because they are as well. Do I think that's healthy? No. Do I think it's something we should encourage? No. But it's not this.
It's wrong and it needs to stop. By the way, I'm not a masochist, and I won't be taking the bait either. And that's all I have to say about that. All right, guys, I want to take a...
If she wasn't taking the bait, she wouldn't have addressed it there. But it's all about drama. Drama, drama, drama. Create drama.
A second to talk to you about Charge, formerly called Blue Block, which they have rebranded and are now called Bond Charge, and they're a holistic wellness.
I'm good, thank you.
Speaking of political...
Now this is an important part of what Candace Owens does as well. She is a troll. Doesn't hide away from that at all. That's what the White Lives Matter t-shirts were about. And that's what this story is about. So yeah, just
It is we have to bring up our folks over at Media Matters. You know, they watch every minute of Daily Wire content that they can possibly find, and then they take out whatever second clip that they can find out of context, and they perpetuate it on the internet. A lot of times it happens to go trending, something that can be rather innocuous,
by
but
the
it
way,
happens to go trending.
the exact same as what she just did with that other woman's clip of calling thingy a feckless whatever. The exact same thing. This is what they all do. This is what content creation is.
I asked the question, what sort of relationship Media Matters has with Twitter, but who knows? I am once again forced to bring my friend Matt Walsh out of cancellation. He's being canceled now every other week for various things that he is saying. They presume he is a radical, and I believe he is a radical when it comes to disowning water. I'm not going to lie, he thinks it's good. So there are a lot of lingering questions there. But yesterday...
See, she's funny though. Like, she's funny. That was funny.
After I think about 72 hours of Candace Owens trending, suddenly Matt Walsh began trending, and I took a look at this trend, and I realized it was about something that he said that we need to discuss about anime. Take a listen.
What's your opinion on anime? It's really popular amongst teens and young adults. I think it's all satanic. I have no argument for it. I have no argument for why it's satanic. It just seems that way to me. All anime to me seems weird, just like bizarre, creepy. And in general, I don't think that adults should be, whether it's anime or any other kind of cartoon, with rare exception, adults really should be watching cartoons in general, I would say.
Listen, I don't know why people were so upset about this. I want to be very clear here at the Daily Wire. We own the science. We own the science on anime in the same way the CDC owns the science. We own the science. And unless you have something compelling to say, or something that you can argue against what he's very clearly said is just, it's what he thinks, it's it, it's over, it's satanic, this should be, it's a conclusion now. We don't want to hear it. In fact, we'll censor you if you have anything to say against what he said. I stand by my friend and my colleague Matt Walsh and his assessment. I'm not exactly sure.
All of this, trolling, irony, everything. This is what a lot of people who are now being deemed right-wing enjoy. It's this ironic, comedic, sarcastic fuck you to the liberal media. This is what they're looking for. This trolling vibe. And it is funny. It is. It is. So, yeah.
Sure why Daily Wire is receiving so much pressure about this, but Matt Walsh did respond to the pressure. He tweeted, "I'm catching some heat because I said that anime is satanic. I just want to clarify that yes, it will literally lead to demonic possession in upwards of 87% of cases, studies show." Yeah, studies show, guys. I mean, that's it. He has said that studies show we shouldn't look any deeper into whether or not that claim is true. He also went on to tell us even more science behind his claims. He says, the girl from The Exorcist used anime, and then the next thing you know, she was crawling around upside down on the ceiling. You guys need to learn your history. Yes, you guys do need to learn your history. This is a fact. It's like I said, Daily Wire owns the science, so it feels weird to me that there's been all this backlash. I don't know why this is trending. And then he also adds this, which is from a different Daily Wire study. This one was actually conducted by me. 74% of all serial killers have an anime habit. Hitler was also into anime, reports suggest. I mean, I can't possibly understand how that can be debunked. I've already told you that multiple studies say this, and we are the ones that are running the studies because we are the experts on anime. And we know we're the experts on anime because no one else has come forth to say that they are the experts on anime. So if you're having a different experience with anime, it doesn't matter.
So obviously what's being poked at here is a lot of these social science, my background type academic articles and research papers and stuff like that, which a lot of these specialisms are over-specialized. Academics are just talking to academics, but this is a problem across academia in general. But it's most pronounced in the humanities, I would say. And, you know, they say, well, the science supports blah, 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 because they've used a scientific method to establish bullshit, right? They've used a scientific method. I mean, but this is all academic back and forth. You can have this argument about anything, really. So that's obviously what they're poking fun at. And it is funny. It is funny. The way they've portrayed it is kind of funny. And it's pointing at something that's kind of true. You know? So, yeah.
That's all I want to say about that. Moving on to people that are purportedly to be canceled. Rapper MIA. Remember I talked about her a couple of days ago. We all
video a few days ago, and I hadn't heard about this story either. So once again, it's another story that I'm getting from Candace Owens that I can't get from anywhere else. I don't agree with the contextualization she does or the wider narrative that she gleans from these stories. But I do come and watch her because I don't hear about any of this stuff anywhere else. And that's what a lot of people are going to do. And a lot of people won't use critical thinking skills, and they'll go, well, she's talking about something that I've not been told about anywhere else. So the way she's talking about it and the argument she's making must be right. That's what a lot of people will do.
all know all I want to do is and take your money. I think I sound really good, so every time I bring her up, I'm just going to do that because it was a smash hit. But MIA.
That was cringe as fuck, and she still did it, you know? It makes her seem a lot more reasonable than others sometimes.
Has been reportedly canceled, at least by GQ, because of her very sensible tweets. So MIA tweeted this. She said, Alex Jones lying and Pfizer lying are both trending, one with penalty or without. You have no critical thinking faculty. This is about as crazy as we should get before a nuclear war wipes out the human race.
Okay, just to be really technical, the reason one is without penalty is because they were literally given immunity before. That's why people aren't talking about it as much, because we talk about everything in this society in terms of liability. And this is something that I have gone on about a lot. We talk about everything in terms of liability. That's why there's no story around Pfizer. That's why there was no story really about Astroworld once it started happening, because no one's going to talk about anything until the legal case is finished, or if there is a legal case. With Pfizer and all of these other vaccine producers, they were given immunity before. I mean, it's crazy that they were given immunity, and maybe that should be a story, but it's not really. But that's why the fact that they lied and continue to lie isn't a story, because there's no liability there. No one's going to get in trouble. No stock markets are going to get affected. No one's losing their jobs over it. Nothing's happening. No one's getting paid out. There's no court case that's going to come of it. There's nothing to cover. Whereas with Alex Jones, we got an inside the court trial. We got to see all of that drama, because this is what we're driven by. Drama. Clicks, views, etc. What story is there to say about Pfizer? Especially for the media that just came out and fully pushed everything that they said for time. So like MIA is making a good point and stuff, but there's a lot more to it. Anyway, yeah.
So we covered that. She said that. And what ended up happening is that GQ responded to these tweets by MIA. She's supposed to, I guess, have a cover story featured in it, and they wrote her and told her that that could no longer happen. The email that she received from GQ says, "Hey Amanda, sadly I have bad news in regards to the GQ award in our upcoming photo shoot. MIA's current Twitter activity was brought to our attention, and due to its controversial nature, GQ will have to step back from working with MIA in regards to our GQ Men of the Year award. Sorry for these bad news on a Friday afternoon. Please let me know when you want to speak about it on the phone. Best, Dom."
So, to be honest, I'm not sure why MIA was working with them in the first place. This is something I've noticed with quite a few artists, creators, influencers, celebrities, whatever. They'll say something and get backlash for it, and then they'll be like, these people gave me backlash. And it's like, well, yeah, but your principles were never in line with these people. So why were you working with them in the first place? If you're really taking a principled position, you wouldn't be working with GQ. I mean, GQ are known for towing the line, and, you know, they're very much this kind of company. So why were you working with them in the first place? Is my question.
Casual. Sorry, you are not on the line, which is pro-vax. Everyone in Hollywood must be pro-vax, or you cannot participate in Hollywood. We will cut you out of the ecosystem. How dare you?
It's also not really a pro-vax thing. It's not necessarily to do with Pfizer. It might more be to do with the Alex Jones stuff, because he kind of doubled down in the court trial that these people were crying for the cameras, that they were being manipulative and all of that. It might be more to do with that than the Pfizer side of things, especially as Alex Jones was in the tweet. You know, the article about Alex Jones was in the tweet. His face was in the tweet. It's probably more to do with her taking a pro Alex Jones position than the anti-Pfizer position.
I say something that's true. Obviously, it's true. Pfizer was trending because it turns out that they always knew that it wasn't going to make us immune. We already covered that. But now she is facing consequences, as seems to always be the circumstance. If you ever dare to ordain to think for yourself, the idea that she even spoke about critical thinking in her tweet means that she is not a good candidate to stand up in Hollywood, right?
True.
You're supposed to think critically in
True.
Hollywood.
But then why were you trying to do stuff in Hollywood? Why don't you take a principled stand before the fact? Because if they had let her continue, she wasn't going to do anything to be like, hey, I think this is really crazy, using that Hollywood platform. So, like, why are you trying to get deals and approval of these, like, Hollywood institutions?
You are told what to think, and your job as somebody in Hollywood is
like, they only have power to control a narrative, and they only have power in general to control culture and influence culture and stuff because enough people give them that power. If enough people boycotted these things because they don't agree with the line that they're taking, they would have to change things up. The reason they do all of this, the reason GQ does this, all of these big institutions do it is because advertisers aren't going to go with anything if they've got the wrong representative, right? Well, if you really disagree with that as a thing, stop being a representative for them. Everyone stop being representatives for them. Stop being audiences for them. You know?
To sell it to the masses. So, I have reached out to AA because I don't believe in cancel culture, as I told you, and I had asked her if she would sit down and talk to me a little about her ideas.
She got cancelled by an inner group from Hollywood. Like, it's not really a cancellation. MIA has always had these positions. She has always been unpopular with this like liberal left, 100%. So be principled then. Don't just make your songs and then be like, oh, but I will work with the institutions that I've been criticizing for my whole career. No, that doesn't make sense.
The ideas that she's had about the vaccines, which we know
it's not about the vaccines, it's about Alex Jones.
I'd like to talk to her about her crazy idea to willingly seek out on those facts. And I'm very interested in having that discussion with her. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Moving on to people that are never canceled. All you have to do is say that you're a man, you're a woman, and you'll receive awards. You remember a few weeks ago we covered this person who bizarrely was, it seems almost given a big following by TikTok. We talked about how they are artificially creating popular channels. It almost seems like the more perverse you are on TikTok, the more likely you are to garner a big following. And I don't think it's because people are meaning to engage with your content. I think it's because China means for people to engage with your content. China, of course, wins the more perverse American culture becomes, because it is.
That's a legitimate point. And this is something I've seen as well, is like the left doesn't really want to address the fact that foreign nations who are providing a lot of the things that we consume, whether that's media or food or clothing or whatever, a lot of these nations do play long-term games, and they do have an impetus to affect our culture and society. China does this in a number of ways, and so does Russia. And it's so strange that when someone like Candace Owens comes out and says that the left goes, "You're being crazy." And it's like, no, that is a legitimate argument. The fact that China does have a completely different type of TikTok for domestic use and then for foreign use is also indicative of that. There are security issues around TikTok. But you could also say, and I have, that TikTok is an innovative communication tool that it's good for us to have access to in some senses, even though you can see like very definite narratives and, you know, they push very specific stories at certain times. It's innovative in the way that it combines like a lot of different types of media. And there's like a horizontal distribution of this multimedia like exhibit. So people choose their own music, their own backing track. People can put text, video, pictures, everything all together. And that just makes a more convincing, a more argumentative, a more persuasive piece of media than when you're using one or two of those types of media. As we all know, if we watch a movie, it's much more persuasive than just watching a still photo with a narrative over it. Like, that's how media works. So it's pretty cool to have that available. And also, you know, media companies that are based in America, they do similar things. They have certain stories that they push or suppress or whatever. So it's just a done thing. Yeah, again, people dismiss this as like some crazy right-wing thought, but it's like, do you know anything about war or warfare, or like, you know, it's very bizarre it's that American exceptionalism that the left wing, it comes from academia, I think. The left wing really attached to that, and they're like, no one could ever do anything to us because we're America. Freedom for the world. And it's like, yeah, you've got a lot of enemies, and they're using a lot of different ways to undermine you as a global power. And soft power is the main way. So TikTok, things like that, it's going to get used. And once again, the people watching Candace Owens say, oh, well, she's saying something other people are denying, so I'm going to listen to everything she says. It's probably true about the argument she's making as well then. And it's like, well, no, she's got a grain of truth in what she's saying. We should listen to that, but also use our own critical thinking skills to contextualize it within our own narrative about the world. So, yeah.
Is the best way to attack us is with cultural Marxism, right? They're controlling a TikTok app.
It's not cultural Marxism. That's crazy. See, she's gone straight to the right-wing talking point, even though like everything she was saying just then made sense until she made it this, this is what it is. That's not what it is. This is just global warfare. This is just what we do as fighting nations.
Controlling the habits of our children on this app. And this creature, Dylan Mulvaney, came out of nowhere. I showed you.
Yeah, this person is weird.
It almost seems like a joke of him saying, oh, and this is how I decided I'm going to be a woman. I'm going to put on a skirt and say that I'm afraid of bugs. That was the video that I showed you. Maybe it was last week, a couple of weeks ago.
I watched her coverage of that. I don't know why she insists on misgendering this person. Just go with just because that's like the left wing will be like, well, you misgendered this one. Just say the thing. Like, it doesn't really matter. The video she showed was weird, and it's this thing that a lot of people who are trans that aren't transitioners, have no intention of transitioning, which is its own strange expanding category of trans. It's this hypersexualization and caricature version of what a woman is that this person was playing out in this video, and it was very strange. It made me uncomfortable. I found it annoying that what being a woman was being reduced to really weird, like overly, just a caricature of what it is to be feminine. It was really annoying. Yeah. But this person isn't like that big a deal. you know?
Well, Ulta Beauty, you know, like the opposite of Sephora is Ulta, recently just loved Dylan Mulvaney so much they decided to launch a podcast called The Beauty Of, which features influential people like Dylan Mulvaney. They had him on, and they want their perspectives. They just want Dylan Mulvaney to talk about his perspective on beauty. So here is what he had to say on that podcast, which is catching a little bit of backlash. Take a listen.
Now I know I can find love. I know I can still be a performer. I know that I can have a family. I want to be a mom one day. And I absolutely can. And that's why the narrative still has a long way to go, because when I was grieving Boy Dylan, I didn't know those things were even accessible to me.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess this just means that all it takes to be a woman, and if you're listening to this, you're not hearing it, he's dressed in a, obviously wearing a bright red dress, a big bow in his hair, or if he's like a cheerleader, and then sitting across from him is a gender-bending host who similarly looks like a woman but has a beard, because that's some other category of the LGBTQ RSTUV community, which I stopped learning letters.
There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with gender bending and all of it. I don't know if that's like a politically correct term, or that doesn't sound nice to me. I don't like that term, to be honest. I don't know if that was meant to be insulting or if it's the term that people use. I don't know. It's very hard to keep up with what's correct and what's not. But there's nothing wrong with doing like this in-between vibe. I do it all the time. Someone literally thought they misgendered me the other day because I was dressed quite masculine, I guess, and I don't have much boobage. It's just not there. And I've got quite a masculine body, right? And this woman, she was trying to get my attention. It was so funny. She was trying to get my... Bless her. She had a heart attack. Like, I didn't understand it at first, but when I say not much boobage, I mean, honestly, it's almost not there. So if I'm walking past you, you could think that I've got a flat chest, 100%. So this person was trying to get my attention to like sell me something, and I was eating at the time, obviously, because that's just what I'm like. And this person goes, "Excuse me, ma'am," and I look up and I'm like, "No," because I've got my mouth full. So I'm just like, and she went, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I was like, "No, it's fine. I'm not interested. Thanks." And she was like, I do apologize. I am so sorry." And I was like, "Okay, cool. And just carried on walking. And afterwards I was like, oh, she thought she misgendered me by calling me ma'am. She thought I was saying no to ma'am. I was just saying no to whatever you're selling me. But it was just quite funny. Anyway, why did I tell that story? Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with being in betweeny. Do your thing. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a really feminine person. It annoys me when you say that that is what being a woman is, because I'm a woman and I'm not that. And you were born a man, you've not lived your life as a woman, and you're telling people what being a woman is, and that's annoying. But yeah, this let's just listen to what Candace has to say.
After the meeting, I don't have time for it. I actually just do not have time to learn the language anymore. And so they're basically on this podcast mocking what it means to be a woman. As I say, now what it is, it's become a caricature, right? This is Halloween. They're playing Halloween appropriate, just a couple of weeks away. They're playing Halloween on a podcast, and both of them are appearing dressed as women. Miss Owens have a female experience, get on a podcast and say, oh, I didn't know all this stuff was available to me, but then I went into TikTok, and I realized that all this stuff is available to me. All I have to do is say I'm afraid of bugs, that I like big red bows, that I love dresses.
So I don't know that that's what that person was saying. Because that person was saying, I'm going to be able to be a mum. Like, I can have a kid. I didn't think that was available to me. And then Candace is like contextualizing that point within what this person said in their old video that was making a caricature out of what being a woman is. But it was one video. It seemed like this person was being stupid. So yeah, I think this is quite disingenuous, this presentation of this point.
That I'm wearing some stockings, so I'm a woman, duh. And it's amazing. I'm having a great time. I'm frolicking through the woods with friends. I'm called by Ulta Beauty, and I'm being asked to speak about what it means to be a woman, right? What it means to be a beautiful woman. I'm sitting across from a man who has a beard and is also in a...
But they were clearly talking about what it is to be a trans woman, because most women don't talk about how they were going to be, they didn't realize they were going to be able to have a baby or be a mum or whatever. And then they realized that they could. So they're clearly talking about being a trans woman. So it's not like they're saying, they can't possibly be saying, well, this is every woman's experience. Because they're talking about something that's very specific to being a trans woman. So this whole story of Candace's is quite disingenuous.
A strange way of presenting as a female, and we are now going to tell you guys what it's like to be a girl. We're talking all things grown men that have some varying forms of mental illness. And I really what their mental illness is.
The person who's just like, in-betweeny, I don't know what to call that. But the person who's just like not sticking to gender norms in their presentation, the one with the beard, there's nothing mentally ill about that. If you're a man and you want to dress feminine, there's nothing mentally ill about that at all. When it gets to the trans stuff, maybe some people are suffering with mental illness and stuff like that. Not necessarily all of them. I don't know. But to say like being sticking rigidly to gender norms in the way you present is evidence of being mentally ill, that's a crazy thing to say. That's a very religious thing to say. And this is what she's doing. She's sneaking in a lot of religious narratives into her coverage of stuff. And I don't like that. That I don't like.
Attention. That's what it is. There are not all these weird categories of things to identify as that just suddenly appeared in our society rapidly over the last 5 years. I didn't go to school with any people that thought they were
gender bending or being queer or gender non-conforming. That's not new. It just wasn't spoken about as much. In fact, it just wasn't as big a deal before. It was just something that people did. Drag has been around for years as well. I actually don't like drag. I think it's gay men who have a tendency to be misogynist, making a caricature of what a woman is. I don't really like drag, to be honest. That's been happening for years, though. That's been years. And only now is everyone getting outraged about it.
Male or thought they were female, right? We just had gays and lesbians, and there were very few of them in my high school class graduating with there.
No, that's bullshit. When I went to school, there was me and a few others in my year. I'm talking about like high school, secondary school, whatever you want to call it, 11 to 18 age. There were a few people, it's so funny, there were a few people in my year, me included, who were like queer on some level, LGBTQIA, blah, 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 whatever, right? Everyone else knew it. Like, everyone knew. We all knew. We just didn't talk about it, I guess. Some people were really horrible. Actually, the people closest to me were really horrible about it. But a lot of people just kind of accepted it and was just like, it just wasn't spoken about until the person wanted to speak about it and felt comfortable being like, okay, this is who I am. And then everyone came out and was like, hey, well done for like realizing that about yourself, or, you know, feeling comfortable to be who you are or be explicit about whatever, right? It's not that they weren't there. It's just they weren't talking about it.
These people weren't gender conflicted. We didn't have people jumping up saying that they thought that they were animals or men that
Okay.
had beards but wore lipstick.
Yeah.
And if we saw them, we would have assumed that they were troubled, something was going on at home. We didn't.
See, that's fucked that she just said that. That's crazy she just said that. If a man was wearing lipstick, you'd think he was troubled and something was happening at home. Or maybe they were just expressing themselves creatively, because you're allowed to do that. And that was absolutely accepted in the 70s and 80s, by the way. David Bowie, fuck's sake. Freddie Mercury, fuck's sake. Like, stop saying this is all new. It's not.
Didn't have any, so we couldn't even assume that.
It's just been made into a big thing.
Everybody's got something going on, and everyone's being given awards and podcasts for talking heroically about their experiences. Their experience they should be talking about is what it's like to need so much attention, right? How desperate you must be to be so extreme on social media for likes that you dress yourself up like a woman and pretend that suddenly...
Says the woman who just did White Lives Matter t-shirts with Kanye West, one of the most hated men in media at the moment. She cannot be talking about what it's like to be an attention seeker as if she's not one. Like, fuck off, lady. Come on.
makes you so. That is embarrassing, and it needs to stop. Moving on, a story that should shock nobody. Researchers at Boston University's National Emerging Infectious Diseases Laboratories have created a new strain of the COVID virus, echoing experiments which many believe led to the COVID-19 pandemic. The variant is a hybrid of the Omicron variant, which spread over the winter, and the original virus that discovered...
It is crazy that they're doing these experiments.
This hybrid
This is
having
insane.
the ability to kill 80% of the mice that researchers infected. So 80% of the mice died. They created this in the laboratory. Remember that conspiracy theory? Let me ask a question. Why on earth are they creating viruses in labs? And why does it seem that every time an enemy of the West says that on a platform, they're called a terrorist? Right? Remember on the show, I talked about how Gaddafi said that in a UN speech years ago, and then we killed him in Libya, right? We had Vladimir Putin who said this. I talked about this on the platform in his recent speeches, that there were a bunch of laboratories in Ukraine where they were experimenting with viruses. He was called a crazy...
By the way, just dropping in the Gaddafi stuff. that's something that will get people listening to her, because it's something that a lot of Western media just does not want to talk about. But I know someone who worked for MI5 and unveiled the Gaddafi murder plot that MI5 and MI6 were involved in. He got put in prison for 2 years for it, and then they made him crazy after that. But this is like, just to talk about Gaddafi, people will listen to her now because no one else is talking about Gaddafi. No one else talks about the West's targeting of Gaddafi and what happened in Libya and stuff like that. No one's talking about it. So she sounds reasonable by bringing it up. So this is why people on the left need to engage with what she's saying, rather than just dismissing her as, oh, fucking Candace Owens. It's like, no, you need to listen to what she's talking about. Talking about the validity of some of the claims Putin makes about the West. That's something no one wants to do right now. So everyone's like, oh, she's talking about stuff that no one else will talk about. What she's saying must be true. That she's talking about stuff that other people won't talk about bit is true. Her narrative is less than true.
Uni person, and he is now a terrorist. And if you talk about anything that he says at all, right? If you talk about any aspect of what he says, you're a terrorist too, right? Political sadism, you're guilty, and you better come out and condemn him, or we're going to create a peer pressure campaign. So we want to talk about the fact that it just seems weird that people keep saying that this is happening, that this is what we do around the world, and now it is literally happening in Boston as a fact. There's just no plausibility that we are doing this also maybe in Ukraine or in other parts of the world. Is that just so crazy and so far into conspiracy land?
True.
Well, unless they tell us that they're releasing viruses, it couldn't possibly be true. That's what I'll say. Unless the CDC, who did I mention, they own the science, okay? They own the science. You don't even think about science because you don't own it. You're not a partial owner. There's no IPO for science, right? You haven't bought stock in it. So what they tell us is true. And unless they come out and they say that they are creating these viruses with the intent to spread them, then it simply can't be so. I'm imploring all of my listeners.
The sarcastic, ironic tone as well works really in her favor here, because that is basically what they say. Yeah.
Not to engage in baseless conspiracy theories. How about that? All right, guys, jump to the comment roundup about yesterday's episode. I want to start doing this because I do read your comments. I love reading your comments, and it also helps me grow. Sometimes you guys tell me, Candace, you're wrong, girl. Shut up. And I listen. So this comment is from Kenyon Gray. And it was in response to the episode yesterday, which is about nuclear war. He said, question, can you really prepare for a nuclear war? If you don't get killed from a blast or radiation, there won't be much left of civilization. When I was a kid, we used to practice in school when an air raid alarm went off in school. We'd go out in the hallway and get as close to the wall as possible. That is all I remember. We all thought it was probably fun, but as we all know, it was not. That is a very fair question. Can you actually prepare for nuclear war?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, I guess you could have a hazmat suit and you could prepare in that regard.
I'm sorry, the rich are preparing for a nuclear war. They've all gone underground. Underground bunkers is how you prepare for nuclear war. Stockpiles, etc., etc. The rich are preparing for a nuclear war. She is rich. Let's bear that in mind. So she's actually got she's got a reason not to say how to prepare for a nuclear war, because then she'd be giving up what she's doing that poor people can't do. the people who pay her money.
Would build a hole in the ground,
Her
which
supporters.
that would probably still not completely keep you safe from it. But I do think that it is important to have those conversations. And I wonder what people that have actually had nukes dropped on them, do they have manners in which they prepare before the
Also, iodine tablets. That is a genuine way of preparing.
possibility that it could potentially happen again in the future, like what's going on in Japan. So thanks for that feedback. And yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. They had you put your face against a wall and decide that that was how you were going to be able to deal with radiation. Candace, you are wonderful. Thank you. Everything you said about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict is spot on. My parents are both immigrants from Eastern Europe, and I've been educating my children on the very complex Eastern European conflicts and politics since they were little. They're all adults now. It is so refreshing to hear someone from the West understand and explain this conflict and the involvement of Western nations. I can tell people until I'm blue in the face, but most seem to be brainwashed by the mainstream media. I would so love this information, this video, and all your videos to become mainstream. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that feedback as a comment because it's difficult. It's not easy for me to inject what to me seems like common sense, even amongst my peers. You know, it's they just decide one day they completely understand that the media lies to them all the time about virtually everything, but then something overseas happens and they're like, no, like they would never lie. And I think my brain works the other way. It's like, obviously, if they would lie to you about what's happening in your own country, you are their countrymen. These are our politicians. They are.
This is something I have an issue with Destiny, as people know. I think if you've watched me ever before, it's got very establishment lines on a lot of things, and it's crazy when you contextualize it within like, oh, yet another report of the CIA having, done stuff to their own people, committing, like starting coups across the world, or wars that are started by America that just continue on and on and on because there's a financial interest in keeping wars going, and all of these different things. And then when it comes to like Russia, Ukraine, it's like Russia bad. And it's like, yeah, okay, dude. Okay. Cool take.
More likely to tell us the truth. And so if they were lying to us, of course, they're going to lie overseas. They're going to lie about what's happening overseas if they're lying about what's happening on our own soil. And I'm always hopeful that in having these conversations, more and more
she
people
seems
are
reasonable.
waking up to that truth. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a necessary pill to swallow. And as a final comment, this is from Paige Vaughn. She wrote, "A few months away from 60 years old, I fully remember in school getting under desks for protection. However, I also remember all the films they had about nukes going off and testing. I thought to myself, I think she meant to say, how on earth could we possibly survive this? I would rather be home in my mother's arms than be at school. I was one of those kids."
So this is an important part of all of the nuclear prep stuff. So I actually went to an international war museum, Imperial War Museum, a little while ago, and they show a lot of the literature and videos and all sorts that people were shown in the Cold War and in the run up to a potential nuclear war with Russia. I watched this video that told people what to do if there was a nuclear attack, and a lot of it is about the same as with COVID. If something seems really, really, really bad, it's panic-inducing, and you start to just accept whatever answers are put forward by the people in power, because you assume that they've got more knowledge of what's happening. You feel helpless and out of control, you're terrorized with these films and, drills and stuff. So you accept whatever the solution is that's put forward a lot easier. And if the solution is we need more taxpayer money to be able to fund our own war that we will profit from, personally, you'll accept that. You'll be like, oh, well, I guess if it means that we don't get bombed, fine, That's something that needs to be, kept in mind when we're talking about all of this kind of stuff.
Thought about everything and ask a million questions. It's really interesting that you're talking about the films that they made you watch in school, because something that I've realized has been an uphill battle is talking about Russia to people that are from an older generation, and I think that they were scarred from
But that's the point.
Anti-Russian propaganda.
That was
from the
exactly
Cold
the
Warriors.
point
I do think that as
of the
children, you
propaganda.
are traumatized about something in the classroom and you're told to constantly be fearful.
That's why now all the older people who are voters, let's bear that in mind, biggest proportion of voters, they will accept the government narrative, the Western narrative about Russia, because they thought they were super close to getting nuked the fuck out of and to everyone dying back in the day because of all the propaganda, because of all the prep for nuclear war that they were told to do and everything. And the reason they were so open to that is because their parents had been through the First and Second World War, or at least the Second. So their parents were like, you know what? War is probably imminent. If they're saying war's imminent, war's probably imminent, because we just undid this about 30 years ago. The parents of the generation that are now Candace Owens and co.'s parents, they were doing Hitler war. Yeah? They were like, holy shit, this is crazy. So then when their parents told these kids, hey, you need to prep for this nuclear war, you should be scared, there's a legitimate reason to be scared, and everyone was genuinely scared, it's because of their past experience. So now, when we're being told, hey, you should be really scared, these are saying, damn right you should be scared, and you'll listen to the fucking government because they stopped it happening the last time, so you do as you're fucking told. And then this generation will do it, and this generation will do it, and this generation, and so on and so on and so on.
All learned that no matter what, Russia is the enemy. And I find that those people are...
And it's the same on the Russian side, by the way. Putin can point to what the West did then, and what the West did then, and what the West did then, and that's why people in Russia accept the exact same shit, blah, 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 blah. When actually, in reality, all of these people still chat to each other quite cordially when they end up meeting. They'll have dinners. They'll talk about ridiculous bullshit. And they'll all be like, okay, so obviously we can't actually have a nuclear war, but hey, this, and this. So,
difficult when you try to just inject, okay, but what about this is what Putin said. It doesn't matter. It's Russia. How dare you? It's Russia. Russia is always the enemy. And I'm realizing that it is almost PTSD that is making them
it is
unable
PTSD.
to think about Russia more critically.
It is PTSD. That's how propaganda actually works.
Than to accept the narrative that Putin just didn't take his meds and he's just a madman and he just wants to drop nukes. And so in order for us to remain non-emotional...
That's why it's so interesting that the West has recently dropped the anti-Middle East narratives. That's what makes that non-story quite a story. Because Middle East was the enemies for the last 30 years, and now it's Russia again. That's an interesting aspect of this.
More rational in our assessments. We have to really think about the propaganda that we have survived. And to give you a current example of that, COVID, right? You have a bunch of people that became radical about COVID, but it was a concerted propaganda effort that really went on for 2 years. Well, I can imagine if you survived all of the Cold War years that you just don't really get over that sort of stuff. And there are still people that are wearing masks by choice, right? I mean, maybe it's 1 or 2 people now that are on a plane choosing to wear a mask, but those people are suffering from a trauma.
True.
A propagandist trauma that they suffered at the hands of their own countrymen.
But also a lack of education. That's truly where the issues come from. A lack of education. Because if you were told all of that narrative, but you actually knew how viruses worked and you knew how they spread and you had an interest in microbiology and immunology, like I do, luckily, you would be able to make your own conclusions about everything that everyone was saying. If you knew about history and how it repeats itself, and you knew about the military-industrial complex and how that works, if you knew about where taxes come from, if you knew about a lot of different things, you wouldn't be so quick to accept the generic explanation for everything. So education is key. And one part of education that's really important is being able to discuss counter-arguments and explain them, which is why the left and co need to engage with what Candace Owens is saying.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your comments. Keep them coming. That is all that I will say about that. All right, guys, the next portion will be available exclusively on Daily Wire Plus.
She also dressed really stylishly, by the way, which is an important aspect. I think so. Okay. Hey, cats. There's an echo on the video that is playing. Oh, shit. Well, it's over now. I should have read comments earlier. Damn. Well, we tried. So yeah, that's something that Candace has been saying. I think it's pretty important to engage with what she's talking about. Here is another video of hers that I watched. Shall we? Or shall we talk about the dismissal of a lot of what's being said by more like lefty creators? So I've seen it on Schultz and I've seen it on Flagrant, I mean Andrew Schultz's podcast. I've seen it on there and I've seen it on Destiny's stuff. This dismissal of Candace Owens and dismissal of Kanye West because he's just parroting what Candace Owens is saying. And they're not really engaging with what they're saying, which I personally see as a big problem, because some of what they're saying isn't crazy. some of what they're saying. A lot of what they're saying is, quite frankly, but the White Lives Matter t-shirts, God, this cough does not want to go today. I think Destiny's that if the left just stopped getting so outraged by what people are saying or what people are doing, there wouldn't be as much of an argument to be had. And I think this is true. So I know someone who is very antagonistic and loves to be a troll and finds it really humorous to be a troll. I know a lot of people like that, to be fair. And I am also like that in some respects. Some things I'm not like that, but I like a bit of trolling. You know, it's good fun. That's all it is fun. Until it gets to like harassment and threats and shit like that. That's not trolling though. That's just harassment. So making it like doing things for the meme and doing things for the troll, that's something that a lot of people find very humorous. And those people are being drawn more to the right because you can't do that on the left anymore. You get cancelled. You get told that you're like harassing or doing whatever or being evil or whatever, you know? So I know someone who wore a Make America Great Again hat to school and to a number of events and things, just to see the reaction that they got and to prove to themselves that these people are not reasonable and can't have a reasonable conversation. And they proved this person right, because people would come up and get like aggressive with this person just for wearing a hat. They would have arguments with this person saying that they were perpetuating racism, transphobia, sexism, blah, 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 just by wearing a hat. And so this person has been drawn more to the right because it seems like the more reasonable side. And if people on the left could just say, wearing that hat or wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt, like, okay, cool. White Lives Matter. True. They do. Well, what's your point though? What point are you making? And then they would have to say, well, clearly people don't think White Lives Matter because everyone gets outraged at me saying it. And then you can say, well, you know, okay, white lives do matter. So what are you actually talking about? What's the subtext here? If we agree white lives matter, why do you feel the need to wear a t-shirt saying it? And then they'll be able to say, well, because it became an egregious thing to say in the context of Black Lives Matter and all of that. And then you can actually have a decent argument rather than getting outraged at the actual thing itself. So that's what the left has done, is they've just got outraged at the idea that someone would even do it, rather than just going, you're being a troll and your joke isn't all that funny. Or it is funny. But like, we get it, like, shut up. I personally think the left should have just said, with the White Lives Matter t-shirt and stuff, I personally think the left should have just said, this is a bit late, lads. You're a bit late. Like, why are you saying this now? Like, we've already moved on, no? The BLM stuff was ages ago. That would have been the time to do a White Lives Matter t-shirt. The George Floyd stuff. I know Candace has just done her doc, which is obviously the reason for all of this. But like, it's a bit late, bro. It's a promotional thing rather than actually a political statement. Because the political statement is dated, like, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, whatever. It's dated. It was 2 years ago. George Floyd not being the best like poster person for the movement is a valid argument to make. But that was the timing, you know, for whatever reason. I mean, I know what the reason is, but they should be pointing to the fact that the reason this was so big is not because of George Floyd, not because of everyone suddenly getting like this is the final straw. Like, it wasn't that. It was that it was allowed to go as crazy as it did as an outlet for people's rage against the COVID stuff that was happening. That's why it was allowed. That's why it went on the way it did. That's why there was exceptions made for BLM protests and stuff like that, because people needed an outlet for their rage against the COVID stuff. They felt like they could circumvent the COVID restrictions if they were doing these protests for this thing, which is why they became so popular. It's all a result of, you know, the context it was in. So this whole thing of like, George Floyd is an imperfect hero, or he shouldn't be martyred and stuff like that. Fine. But who is a perfect representation for this kind of thing? Like, if you're getting arrested by the police, you're probably not going to be the perfect poster child for any movement, any campaign. But no one ever is. I mean, we know that. The left loves to tell us why this person shouldn't be a hero anymore, or whatever. You know, they were a bad person for this, they're this for that, they're this for whatever. So the left, when Candace came out with this documentary, the obvious answer to it is, well, yeah, like, this was an outlet for frustrations about a lot of other stuff at the time, and it just happened to work out this way. Whatever, it's not a big deal. I think the bigger story to focus on is not the fact that George Floyd was an imperfect poster child for this campaign, but the fact that like BLM took shit tons of money off of people and did absolutely fuck all with it. BLM's narratives were ridiculous and hyperbolic, to the point where it's made achieving anything almost impossible. This is like a big problem with charities and fundraising and stuff for big issues anyway, is they hyperbolize, they exaggerate the reality of things, and they have unachievable aims. And that is a huge thing in charity in general. A lot of charities also, once you incorporate, you are obliged to keep that corporation growing and existing in the future. So if you're a charity with a very specific aim to end something, which is what a lot of charitable aims are, it's not going to, there's issues around it. But again, to not engage with anything that is being said, crazy. I need to watch the documentary. I've only seen a couple of clips, mainly of Candace Owens talking about it. But it's just like, okay, what point are you actually making? Anyway. So yeah, and then Kanye's like DEFCON 3 on Jews thing. I mean, he made some legit points, and no one really wants to talk about that. It seems strange to me that the left is very willing to say, oh, Trump engaged in nepotism, and there's a rich elite that conspire against the poor and all of that. And as soon as you say those people are also Jewish, the left is suddenly like, how dare you? And it's like, wait, whoa, what? But we just agreed on the facts like a minute ago. There's a rich elite that are conspiring to keep themselves looked after and the people that are workers for them down. It just seems strange. I don't think it's 'cause they're Jewish that they're doing it. But there's a lot of nepotism that happens in a lot of powerful places. So to say that that doesn't happen is crazy. Schultz's take is particularly strange on Flagrant. Like, he's literally said he's pro-nepotism. Like, he's literally said it. Like, he thinks That's how business should work. It's obvious that that is how that would work because you trust people that you know. And so you're going to put those people that you know into positions of power alongside you because you trust them. He doesn't see anything wrong with nepotism. So I don't get this narrative of like, no, there's no nepotism amongst Jewish people. No. It's like, okay, so now they're impermeable to doing things the way everyone else that's in a position of power apparently does things. Okay. Strange. I've seen this thing, I think Destiny was saying that Candace Owens was the one who linked Kanye having his bank account taken away to the Jewish tweets. ABBA's given some pushback on that, saying, when have you ever seen a celebrity act? Because the counter narrative to that is that actually the reason he got his bank account deleted or taken off him or whatever is because he was being really critical of the CEO. And there's been pushback on that saying, yeah, but when has that ever had someone get their bank account taken off of them, being really critical of the people in charge? Like, that's bizarre. And there seems to be no counter to that. So then people are able to go, what? Well then, so it was to do with the tweets. Yeah, it's just a really strange situation that we're in. And again, everyone's being like, well, it's because of Candace Owens. And it's like, well, I know she's quite widely hated, so you think that that's an easy sell. But like I've just pointed out, there's quite a lot of truth in a lot of what she says. So you can't just dismiss everything as, well, Candace Owens said it. That's not going to work. It's not. I also find it strange that Destiny is using that narrative when he seems to be A-okay with Lawrence Southern doing exactly the same shit that Candace Owens does. But as soon as Candace Owens does it, it's like, oh, she's a crazy conspiracy theorist and shouldn't be given a platform and blah, blah, blah. It's like, but Lawrence Southern is fine. They are basically the same person, just one's white and one's black. How is one acceptable to you, but the other one's crazy? I don't get it. Apart from I think I do. And I think Destiny is a little bit racist. Not on purpose. But he said something yesterday that made me really fucking cringe. And he was on... I don't know that I want to say this. I've already said that I think he was racist now, so I may as well explain why. Fucking hell. Okay. So, to be very clear, I don't think he's purposely racist. Like, I think he's just very uninformed on certain things. And he knows he's uninformed on a lot of things, and that's why he's trying to, like, reach out and talk to more people from different backgrounds and stuff, which is good. I hope maybe ABBA will have a conversation with him about this, because he was kind of talking about how he would say to someone if they had said something he disagreed with. So hopefully he will talk to him about this privately. But of course, be back just about. So he said this thing. Where he said, so I could say something, and I could say, what was it? No, I need to make sure I've got this right. So he was saying, I could say, that guy's black. He doesn't understand. Like, of course, okay. So he was saying, of course that guy's black. Of course that guy's bad with money. He's black, is one way of saying things. But then he could say in another way, well, that guy is from a poor socioeconomic background. He doesn't understand. He's not been raised with financial literacy. He doesn't understand finances because of that. And he said that these are the same thing. And that came across as mad racist to me. And kind of what Candace Owens fucking talks about. So in Destiny's mind, saying that someone is black and financially illiterate is the same as saying someone is from a poor socioeconomic background, has not been taught stuff about financial literacy, and therefore is financially illiterate. He sees that as the same thing. That is not the same thing. There are plenty of black people that didn't grow up poor and from a bad socioeconomic background and who are financially literate. So to say that that is the same thing is wrong. All of the black people who were on the call with him when he said this went silent and didn't agree, but they didn't publicly say anything either. I'm hoping that's because they were going to have a private conversation with him after and just say, like, yo, what you just said there was fucking crazy. I'm hoping ABBA will have that conversation with him. Because when he said it, my face went red for him because I was like, what? Did you just say that? And then in the same conversation, he's talking about why we can just dismiss everything that Candace Owens says because she's a crazy conspiracy theorist, and we can also dismiss everything that Kanye West says because he's just listening to what Candace Owens says. But Candace Owens is literally arguing against the narrative that there is a homogenous idea of what black people are, and that they're all poor and they're all, you know, the lower socioeconomic group and this. So when he said that in the same conversation that he's saying, like, we can dismiss everything that Candace Owens says, that blew my fucking mind. Blew my mind. I was like, whoa, this is literally what Candace Owens is arguing against, is the idea that all black people are the same, and that if you don't say the same things as everyone else, you're considered a race traitor and stuff like that, like she has been called. And then that he said that analogy, and I was like, oh, you're playing into literally everything that she says and everything that Kanye West is also saying at the moment and has said for a long time. You know, the whole slavery is a choice, etc., kind of thing. So yeah, that one fucked me up. That one blew my mind yesterday. And then also seeing the stuff that Schultz and the Flagrant crew were saying about Kanye West and everything, also insane. The fact that Schultz and the Flagrant lot have doubled down on what their position is and dismissed everyone as just not getting a joke is also crazy. I just feel like we're pushing a lot of people into quite an extreme right position just by not acknowledging the truth that's in a lot of what these right-wing people are saying. Black people are not a homogenous group. They're not all from a socioeconomic background that is poor and financially illiterate and all of that. That is a big factor for why a lot of Black people are in certain positions in America. But that is not the reality for Black people across the world at all. And there are plenty of Black people in America who did not live like that, like Candace Owens. She didn't have that background. She was raised by parents who were financially literate and who did know how to do all these things. And so she knows a lot of this stuff. So you make people listen to people like her more when you say shit like that. People will now listen to what Kanye West has to say more because of what Schultz and the Flagrant crew have come out and said about there being no Jewish people in positions of power in media or financial systems or whatever. Because it's just not, it's not true. It's just not true. There are Black people who are from, middle class backgrounds. There are quite a few Jewish people in charge in like positions of power and in decision-making roles. That I think that's a big part of like what Kanye West was saying is like they are in decision-making roles, they're in management roles, and so they are making a lot of decisions about like who gets to be the next person, who gets to be this or that, and he feels like Black people should be doing that for themselves, managing other Black people and whatever. I think it's perfectly legitimate to say, yep, they are in those roles, but they worked hard to get there. They are in those positions because they were kind of not allowed to do a lot of other things in society back when they were starting out. Whatever. And, you can still say, well, I still think there should be more diversity in these management positions, because we say that for everything. Yeah. There should be more diversity in decision-making roles in powerful industries and stuff like that. That's something we all agree on. It's only as soon as people said, oh, actually, there's quite a lot of Jewish people in those roles, that people are, oh, that's crazy. Well, no, it was a legitimate point until you pointed out that. Because we've been saying for time, oh, Hollywood is run by white people. Yeah, it is. The idea that you could, you don't have many Black people making decisions about like who's going to play in particular positions and stuff, or creating the narratives so they can be a feature role now, but as writers or as directors or whatever, they're not there as much in America. And so we see certain tropes, certain stereotypes being perpetuated because of it, because they're not in decision-making roles. That's a legitimate point to make. The fact that Jewish people are in those roles, that's just facts. It just is. And you should be able to say that without being called anti-Semitic. Some of the other stuff Kanye West has said, anti-Semitic. I personally don't get the Black Israelite argument either, which is what he's on. I think that's crazy. But I think all religious arguments are fucking crazy. I do. So like to say that you should be above a particular group of people or below a particular group of people, all crazy, based on what some guy in the sky may have said. All crazy. But pointing at the reality of certain things should be allowed. And if we're not allowed to do that, and we're not allowed to address the reality and the grains of truth within what people are saying, everyone's going to get more and more divided and more crazy, and we're not going to be able to talk to people. I would love to have a conversation with Candace Owens. Yeah, I do not agree with her positions at all on pretty much anything. But the facts of the matter, we agree quite a lot on, and we're interested in similar topics. So it'd be great to have a conversation with her. Like, great. Because we could have a respectful conversation for the most part. There might be some jibes, because we're both kind of trollish. And we both like getting a rise out of people, clearly. Otherwise we wouldn't be fucking doing this shit. So, it would be an interesting conversation. And I find it dangerous that everyone's going, oh, she works for Daily Wire. And wait, isn't the Daily Wire owned by Shapiro? So isn't it like a Jewish-owned media company? Is that not true? Is that true? I feel like that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Founded by Ben Shapiro and, for me, boring. Whoever he is. So even the most right-wing, supposedly anti-Jewish people are still working for a Jewish-owned media company. I don't know what this guy is. Oh, so the other guy, the other founder is Christian. So as long as you're religious, for the right wing, it's religious versus non-believers, no? And for the left wing, it's minority versus majority. So they're just talking past each other a lot of the time, which is crazy. Yeah. I don't know what else to say, really. I'm just trying to think. But yeah, I've been really surprised and disappointed by the response to Kanye West and Candace Owens recently. There's no engagement with the legitimate points that they're making, and it's all just getting dismissed as anti-Semitic and by the way, it really annoys me that all of these people keep calling everyone anti-Semitic. It's not, it's Semitic, it's anti-Semite, anti-Semitic. If you're going to call someone something quite egregious, at least say it right, for fuck's sake. Don't know why, but that is really annoying me. If you're going to call me an anti-Semite, call me an anti-Semite, not an anti-Semite or whatever the fuck you're saying. But yeah, it's that blanket response of, oh, you're anti-Jewish. And it's making a lot of people go, okay, well, I have been called it in the past. Yeah, for sure. Not right now. I'm sure maybe after this stream I might be, but no, for years, when you're pointing out the fact that there are a lot of Jewish people in charge of a lot of things, people on the left, this is why I stopped identifying as left a lot, is people on the left attacking me for stuff. This and being a TERF is the two things. There is this thing of like, you're not allowed to say that. Only anti-Semites say that. And it's like, well, so we can't talk about reality then. We can't talk about the reality that is out there then. It makes it really hard to have any discussions. Really hard. Because of their cultural traditions. There's a lot of different reasons to address this, but like one of the things for like being in positions of power in banks and stuff like that, and in loan companies and anything to do with usury, is for thousands of years all across Europe and lots of places, it has been illegal for Christians and Muslims to engage in anything to do with interest rates or prospective earnings, like stock markets, all of that. It was all immoral for Christians and Muslims to get involved in. So obviously, who's going to take up the mantle? The group that's allowed to. I mean, obviously. This has gone on, like, this was a huge deal in medieval Europe. That's where a lot of Shakespearean plays came from. There was a lot of plays back in the day that were really anti-Jewish for these reasons, you know. This isn't a new thing, and it's obvious as to why they will have got into these positions. But to not acknowledge that is crazy. It was the same thing when I was going to uni. there's the Frankfurt School, right? A lot of those people, those really influential theorists and writers, a lot of them were Jewish, and they had a really interesting perspective because of it, because they were basically, from the time that they were writing, they were persecuted in their own countries. They had to leave their country. They had to go and see other countries and see how they wrote things, how they did things, and how that was different. A lot of our most insightful legal theorists for the West are Jewish, and it's not because they're Jewish. It is because they're Jewish that they've got some really interesting insight. But it's not because they're Jewish that they had huge influence over theory in the West. It's just because of the circumstances that occurred. Like, and then nepotism happens, and you start to, talk to people who are like you and who you feel like you've got stuff in common with. And nepotism is a thing in all positions of power. It's what everyone does. It's what everyone does. And the left was very quick to point it out when Trump was doing it. But now when people are saying it about Jewish people doing it, everyone's like, that's crazy. That's anti-Semitic. And it's like, well, no, actually, it's what everyone does, IQ is a stupid thing, really. Yeah. There's a reason for that, though. Like, a lot of the people who will have come from Europe to America, which is the reason that they will have gone to America, is being persecuted in Europe. The people who could afford to leave Europe are going to be higher educated. That's why you've got higher educated people in, like, Jewish people in America, because they were the only ones who could afford to escape, is the middle classes, the upper middle classes. It's the exact same with why in the UK, African children who are second generation African are doing much better than UK black people, white working class people. All of that is because the ones who could afford to come are going to be the ones who were upper middle class back in their country. They're going to have access to better education. It's not because it's inherent within these people. It's because of the class situation that they came from. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's quite easy to explain, but you have to engage with the point to explain it. So yeah, I mean, this is human nature. This is what people do. Yeah, it just seems insane that we're going, there's absolutely no truth to any of this. It's like, well, there is, though. There is. I mean, if we want to get conspiratorial about it, there is that Operation Paperclip thing that happened. But, like, again, that doesn't really point to there being like a Jewish conspiracy. It just points to, like, Operation Paperclip, if you don't know, is when there was a lot of, like, German scientists, a lot of whom were Jewish and stuff, brought over to America and to a number of other countries. And their knowledge was used to, improve security and lots of scientific experimentation and blah, 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 blah. The right wing point to this being a Jewish conspiracy. The left wing say, like, oh, fuck the CIA, but, like, yeah. lot of weird shit that a lot of people do. And it doesn't mean, like, conspiracy happens all the time everywhere. Conspiring with a group of people who are in power is what powerful people do. I don't really see it as that big a deal, to be honest. The only aspect that I see as a big deal about all of this is on all sides, there's a religious narrative being pushed. So if you're anti-Jewish, you're pro-Christian. If you're pro-Jewish, you're anti... I don't know, actually. I don't know what you're anti. I don't know, actually. But there's a lot of like believer versus non-believer narratives that are coming out, and that I don't like. And that's on every side. And I think that is dangerous. And I think, you know, the Daily Wire, Candace Owens, it's not this anti-Jewish thing or this like Jews being in power thing that is an issue. It's the proliferation of religious narratives that is dangerous. That I don't like. What is the issue exactly? I just don't think pushing religious narratives is a good idea. I think if you don't need to push a narrative, you just let people come to it themselves. I don't think religious people calling non-believers like degenerates and hedonists and all of this, which is what Candace Owens likes to do, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that is dangerous. I think that's how you end up with witch hunts. I think that's how you end up with persecuting people. That's how you end up with danger, like actual danger in society. Because it's all in the name of religion. No one can argue against religion. It's my belief. It's my belief. Like politics, no, you can't do that with. But religion, hell's yeah. It's my belief. It's what I believe. Like, who cares? That's not a good enough reason, bitch. Like, it's just not. It's not a good enough reason to be calling people degenerate and shit like that. Just because they don't believe in a religion. And I think religious groups, like siding with people just because they're religious, that's dangerous. And that's how you end up with people really getting persecuted and stuff. Good to know. Because all of the Abrahamic faiths really have quite a similar viewpoint, let's be real. Like, this whole argument between them is bullshit, to be honest. And that narrative that I am seeing being pushed more and more, that is actually what we should be talking about a little bit more, rather than this, oh, you're against this particular Abrahamic faith, you're against this particular Abrahamic faith. Let's just talk about how Abrahamic faiths in general are proliferating some really dangerous narratives that are anti-progressive and that are being pushed quite easily because the left is so busy concentrating on, well, we need to be considerate of this minority, we need to be considerate of that minority, and religious groups are minorities and should be respected, and blah, 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 blah. Like, not always, actually. If you're telling me I'm going to die because I'm like living my life, that's, I believe that. But you can't be all pushing it all at the same time with no pushback, you know? It's a bit strange. There are sects within religion that hate each other too. Yeah, for sure. Like, for sure. Those arguments are stupid as well. I'm sorry, but you're free to believe what you want to believe, but you can't be pushing it on other people. That's dangerous. Because it's not based in any reality. It's just a belief you have. And since when have we made any decisions about society based on just a belief for anything else? It's only for religion that we do that, even though we say we're progressive. Like, the whole point of like Western societies and why they're meant to be progressive and like pushing the boat and like, you know, the whole narrative about them being great societies is because it's based on the scientific method. There's concrete reasoning that, like, that was the whole idea. We've moved away from religious narratives and now we're descending back into it, and no one's arguing against that. Like, Kanye West's stuff that he's saying is crazy because he's talking about like Black Israelite stuff and being super Christian and all of that. That's the crazy stuff. Like, shut up. Like, no. That's what I don't like. So Candace Owens, Kanye West, they're able to say some stuff that a lot of people agree with, and then what they're pushing at the same time is a very Christian narrative. Andrew Tate says some crazy shit. It's all in line with Sharia law and him being a Christian under Sharia law. Everything he says is in line with that. That is the danger of what he's pushing. That is the danger of what Candace Owens is pushing. That's the danger of what Kanye West is pushing. Follow blindly a religion. That's what these people are saying. And that's the thing that needs to be pushed back on. But it's the thing that no one wants to push back on because it's people's beliefs. And you can't complain about people's... Yes, you can. You can. If it's causing danger and like division in society, you can argue against it, and you should, because it's dangerous. That's why we moved away from religion being in control of shit. That was the whole point of secular societies, is that we're not beholden to these crazy ideas that are just based on belief and not based in reality or anything that you can track or observe or anything. That's why we moved away from it. So that's what I find dangerous about the Candace and the Kanyes of the world, because they're pointing out bits in reality that a lot of people are like, yeah, why is no one talking about this? Like, why are you not allowed to say that? And then they're saying it, and then they're being like, and as a good Christian, I notice this. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Where did your religion come into it? That's got nothing to do with that. You know? And they sneak it in. And I don't like that. And I think we should be very cognizant and wary of that. Any religious narratives in general. Like, really, really, religion is the opiate of the masses. It is kept to keep people in line. Comments like that are to win over the different demographics. Comments like, what do you mean? So I just covered like a Candace Owens video where she was pushing anti-non-believer, pro-religious arguments when really it wasn't relevant. And that's what she does with her content. She talks about stuff that other people just will not talk about. And then she sneaks in this good Christian sort of narrative. And she basically links them by going, see, it's because I've got my good Christian values that I am able to see this stuff. And then so the audience, even if they aren't Christian, they start to go, well, I see that stuff too. So maybe I'm a good Christian. Maybe I should get into Christianity more. And Christianity, Judaism, Islam, it all makes you accept your lot because you'll get rewarded in the next life. It also means that a lot of people end up doing some really dodgy stuff, some really awful stuff in the name of religion. It only brings bad things. A large majority of conservative voters are religious. I know. But a lot of the people watching Candace Owens aren't typically conservative. That's the problem. Centrists are being pushed to the right and pushed to religion because their narrative is not anywhere else. Yeah. People grow to believe what their parents believe. Yeah, absolutely. And then by the age of 25, you've built your own views. Unfortunately, a lot of people are educated within religious groups, and it's quite hard to unlearn a lot of stuff, or just to move away from the group that you're already accepted in because of just being of that group. This is another thing. So Andrew Tate particularly, he's encouraging extremism in the name of religion. And so the reason the way religions really work is by getting isolated people who are looking for truth, who are looking for a way to live their life, who are fools. Religions get those people because they go, yeah, I know other people aren't talking about what you're seeing. And we have an explanation for that. We are a group that will accept you, we'll do this, we'll do that. And that's how you end up with religious extremists. Tate has done absolutely that. He has pushed such a pro-Sharia law narrative. It's insane. And he went on Piers Morgan and said that, and said, I'm a religious man. This is where my views come from. And Piers Morgan did not push back on that point anymore. And so then it's, oh, okay. Oh, well, if it's a religious argument, I can't argue with that. That's your belief. And everyone just leaves it there. Us non-believers just leave it there because we're trying to be respectful. But it leaves people open to radicalism, but religious radicalism, which is not based in any reality or truth. And once they've convinced you, if you're looking for that and you're just looking for acceptance and a place where you can just be not lonely or, whatever, and you're looking for rules and control in what feels like a very out of control reality, you're going to be open to religious ideas. And that is what's happening with the Candace Owens and Kanye's of the world. Personally, I believe in a higher power, but not the rules that are set to create laws. Clearly outdated. Yeah, I agree. And an orange. Indeed. Get that vitamin C. I don't necessarily believe in God, but I do have some spiritual beliefs. Morals aren't real. Morals aren't real. So I agree with both of you to an extent. I think there's a bit of an innate idea of morals, to be honest, which is quite a religious argument, by the way. It's this idea of like natural law, which was always made by legal theorists who believe in God. This idea that we've got this innate sense of right and wrong, and natural law people say that comes from God. I just think it's a human thing. We know like it's wrong to murder, but we know that in a self-defense circumstance there's some grey area. I think we know it's wrong to have sex with children because they can't consent. I think that's an innate thing. That's why we're so like outraged by paedophiles and stuff, like generally as societies. Yeah. Although I've just said that and I realised actually a lot of Islamic countries don't necessarily know that that's wrong. I still believe that there's an innate understanding of what is right and wrong. I don't think we need religion to tell us that. But there's an interesting thing that a lot of people apparently do need religion to tell them that. And it's actually being identified as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a Jew that makes people feel morally superior, rather than the actions that they undertake. So that's interesting. But yeah, I think religion is bad. Just following of religion is bad. And that's what Candace Owens and Kanye West are pushing with all of this anti-left stuff. And there is the religious right, obviously. A lot of conservatives claim to be religious. Where do I stand? On the religion thing, I think if you look at the history of religions, particularly the Abrahamic faiths, they all derive themselves from a previous religion. I think paganism is probably a good thing. I just think we need to live in line with nature a lot more. And I think Abrahamic faiths actually discourage that, because they give this narrative that like humans are different to the rest of nature around it. And obviously there is something unique about humans. But we're not that different to a lot of species out there. Like dolphins are clever as fuck. Magpies, clever as fuck. Pigs, clever as fuck. They feel emotions. They, whatever. But because we've been able to create things on a mass scale quite quickly, we seem to believe that like we're really, really different and special. And I don't know. I don't believe that. They do know it's wrong, but some countries force themselves. Yeah, poverty is a big aspect of it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But I do think it's a problem. My main issue with it is that people can go, well, it's my religious belief, so you can't argue with it. And it's like, well, no, actually, I can argue with it. That's still a fucking stupid belief. But people on the left are a bit scared of doing that because they're like, well, it's a religious belief, and we encourage religious freedom and freedom of speech and freedom of thought. And it's like, yeah, but that's exactly why you should be able to argue against it then. That's what freedom of thought and freedom of speech and freedom of religion actually is about. It's about having the freedom to also criticize it. The financial element is obviously a huge part of it, because we know religious groups get exemptions from tax and stuff like that, and you get there's a lot of financial reasons to be a part of a religious group on every socioeconomic level that there is. If you're the poorest, you can pay in a little bit, and there are a variety of religious groups that can help you out. So an advert I saw recently is a church is open, a local church to me is open between 8:30 in the morning or is it 8 and 9:30 or 8 and 10? A church is open for that time for its members to look after your young children whilst you're bringing the school age children to school. And they've got a creche open for very young children for that period of time. That's a good reason to go to church every fucking Sunday. If you're struggling financially, that is a good reason. What, I can have childcare for a little minute, and I might even be able to go home and put a little wash on and like actually get a couple of chores done while someone looks after my child for free. Excelente. Right? And there's lots of things, and then on the other end of the socioeconomic scale, I'm going to get a fat tax break if I donate a lot of money to church. I don't even believe in that shit, but tell you what, tax exemption or, whatever, excelente. So yeah, there's definitely absolutely a huge financial element of being a religious person. Then there's the social element of acceptance, blind acceptance of a person. Someone else said it as well. There's this, I think Abba may have said this from Abba and Preach, that there's this idea that there's always going to be someone who will listen to you. That might not actually be the reality, but the idea is that you've always got someone who can listen to you without judgment. A lot of people are looking for that, bro. I was looking for that at one point. I'm over it. I'm over it. But there was a point where I could have been convinced, maybe, if I was less informed about the world, to get into religion. Because I was looking for answers. I was looking for rules. It could have happened. Luckily, I, streamed instead. So it went different. But yeah, I actually think that's the element of Candace Owens and Kanye West and stuff that we should be talking about, rather than the anti-Jewish stuff that everyone keeps saying that they can quite easily argue against within their own little group. Let's talk about the pushing yet another religious narrative to people who feel isolated politically and who are looking for the truth, for answers, for rules to live their life by, because everything seems so out of control and chaotic and everything in the political arena. Usually the people watching this content are also quite socially isolated in general, because that's how they've ended up looking at YouTube so much and getting into political arguments and stuff like that. And they are capitalizing on that, and that I don't like. I think that's dodgy, and that's actually what we should be talking about with their content, to be honest. I remember in school saying I agree with some parts of the Bible, but stuff like Noah's Ark would be impossible, and you got told to shut up. Yeah. Since I was like 7, I've just not really been into religion. I was raised Catholic, and we'd do a prayer every night and blah, blah, blah. And I continued that until I was like 13, 14. And then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't believe in it. So I'm not going to do it because I feel like it's hypocritical of me to do it. And then the whole family stopped for whatever reason. Well, it was because I used to lead the prayer. because I was a good little Christian girl. But when I was 7, the idea of heaven freaked me the fuck out. The idea that you'd be in this one place forever and ever and ever and ever, and it would just go on forever and ever and ever. I used to have nightmares. I'd have nightmares. I'd like come downstairs crying at the idea of heaven. And that's when I was like, oh, religion's probably not for me. No. There's going to be dinosaurs. Cute. Yeah, and I've read a lot of religious scripture and, you know, a lot of different religions' teachings and stuff. I like the more cyclical ones. I think that just seems more realistic. But any of them, it's really just some ideas for how to live a life in a nice way. And most people who claim to be religious are doing the exact opposite and using it for ways to control other people, ways to isolate people, ways to demonize other people. And it's like, okay, well, the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, this isn't what religion was meant to be about. Well, it is, but it's not what it claims to be about. So, yeah. I also think the Abrahamic faiths were largely designed to control women and to subjugate women. So, come for me. But that's my belief on that. So yeah, I'm not on board with them at all. Yeah. So my point really is we need to engage with things that Candace Owens and Kanye West and all of these types are saying, because they're pointing out things in reality that a lot of people know to be true or believe to be true or that they see. And then their answer is religion. And that's the problem. Like, them pointing out a variety of different things that's happening in reality that a lot of other people won't talk about, that's not the issue. It's the implication that it's because they're a good Christian person or because they're enlightened that they see this stuff, and therefore you must also be a good Christian because you also see this stuff, and then the audience starts to reach out for religious dogma and stuff like that. And that is the danger of what they're doing and the left's response to what they're doing as well. Again, the left instantly dismisses any religious arguments as stupid because it's not based in reality. But that's actually the important part of what they're doing. So it's actually the bit that we need to pay attention to the most. There's that idea of if you're accepting of all the time, you're going to end up accepting yourself, like accepting others to the point that they attack you and get rid of you. And I think that's kind of what the left is doing a little bit now. And I think it's quite dangerous. So people fear what they don't understand. No one can comprehend the caliber of such entities. Our brains aren't complex enough for us to make sense or to interact with such a dimension. Yeah, so don't base stuff in this reality on something you don't understand. Let's just go back to talking about it. Like, you can have your beliefs. Don't be making decisions for society based on just a belief, though. Let's base it in reality as well. If that's in line with your belief also, that's great. But let's not just base it on just a belief. and because other people once also said so. Like, that's not good enough. That's literally why we came up with the scientific method, which is flawed in and of itself, don't get me wrong, but that's what was great about it. That's why we liked it. Yeah. Anywho, I've been talking for a very long time and I'm hungry. And honestly, the orange slices just aren't doing it. And they're getting in my teeth, which just isn't great for on stream. So, so I'm going to get going. It's been great having chats with you guys. Much appreciated for you being here. And I was just about to say catch you on the flip side, and you went and said that. That's hilarious. Your typing's fine. Your typing really is absolutely fine, so I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, have a great one. Peace and love and peace always. And yeah, see you next time. Bye.